Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar called CK12, a solution for flexible learning. My name is Laramie, and my colleague Katie and I will be guiding today's conversation about how CK12 can be a solution for any educational situation, whether that's in-person learning, remote or hybrid learning, homeschooling, or any blended model of teaching and learning.
We're so glad to have you with us today for this interactive session, and we want you to leave with practical strategies for implementing CK12 in any educational context, either as your core curriculum or as a resource to supplement your current instruction. CK12 is a robust, intelligent platform. Our goal in this session is to give you an introduction to the CK12 Foundation and CK12.org, and to show you the power of our Flexbook 2.0 platform, including our teacher assistant and student tutor and our newest student review options, plus all of the interactivity and related content that brings learning to life. We'll show you a variety of ways to access, share, and assign content to students, as well as how you can monitor their progress. We'll discuss strategies for implementation, whether you are doing in-person or online instruction. And lastly, we'll make sure that you leave knowing where to find additional help and support should you need it when exploring CK12.
All right, before we get started today, let's make sure everyone is comfortable with the two Zoom windows. You should see two different options on your Zoom screen, one for Q&A and one for chat. During the presentation, whenever you have a question you'd like CK12 team to answer, please post it in the Q&A window. That's the window we'll be monitoring throughout the presentation. The chat window is a place for community conversation. We'd love for all of you to introduce yourselves, and it looks like many of you already have. If you're an educator, please feel free to share where you live and the subject you teach. Just make sure in the chat window that you're sending any general posts to everyone, all panelists and attendees, not just to CK12, I think it's listed as the host, or the panelists.
Now, this webinar is scheduled to be about 45 minutes with time for Q&A both during and at the end. So definitely feel free to ask questions at any point in time, and we'll make sure to leave time to address any unanswered questions before we wrap up today. We are recording this webinar, and it will be available on our webinars page at www.ck12.org/webinars in the archive section within the next maybe 24 hours or so. That way you can go back and revisit anything you learned today or share the presentation with a friend or colleague.
Now, for many of you, this webinar might be your first introduction to CK12, but we've actually been the premier flexible learning solution since 2007. Serving over 200 million users from around the world. We firmly believe that every student has a unique personalized learning journey, and we offer multiple pathways for students to learn in their own way. We're a nonprofit organization, and all of our resources, absolutely everything on CK12, is free. You won't see any advertising on our site, and you'll never hit a paywall. CK12 is proud to provide free access for teachers and learners and give you the tools and resources you need to help students seamlessly transition between in-person or remote classes and homework or independent learning.
So what specifically are we offering to you? Quite simply, we're offering the highest quality content that's accessible across every platform and device, from Chromebooks to smartphones to tablets to desktop computers. Customized Flexbooks can be downloaded as PDFs as well for those that need static copies or offline access, though the best experience will always be online with the latest offerings and adaptive learning.
Okay, so when you arrive at CK12, you may notice that the bulk of our resources fall within the branches of math and science. We offer comprehensive coverage for middle and high school math and science, including our newest interactive Flexbooks, attached adaptive practice, and related content such as videos, interactives, and real-world applications. We also do have some math adaptive practice at the elementary level, and we offer parent and teacher elementary math Flexlets and elementary science readers. We also have some college Flexbooks and some content that goes beyond the STEM subjects as well. And finally, I encourage you to check out our middle and high school Flexlets. They were developed to help students fill in previous learning gaps and prepare for upcoming new content by studying the key concepts in a variety of math and science subjects. Now, all of the resources on CK12 can certainly be used as is, or you can customize the content to meet the needs and standards of your needs and standards or those of your community.
We actually have an entire section of our site that is dedicated to sharing the content our users customize and create. Like Laramie just said, while CK12 only offers a few Flexbooks in the area of language arts, for instance, we do have schools and districts who have created books on our site that are ready to be used by you. Don't be afraid to use the search bar for any subject or topic and click over to the Community Contributed tab to see what we offer. The schools page is another great place to see content created in a region near you. And this is the magic to CK12. You can use the power of the CK12 platform to customize, create, and curate your own content. When schools started shutting down in 2020 due to COVID, the Merced County Office of Education in California needed a way to organize and deliver content to the 22 districts it serves, and they needed to do it quickly. Within a matter of weeks, they built their own Flexbooks on CK12, using their teacher-created materials as well as other open educational resources. They embedded videos from their own YouTube channel and even attached a customized quiz to each of their lessons. Then, 22 districts had access to quality content that they could use for online or in-person instruction with their students. Merced County is a great example of what is possible if you get the right people around the table who are willing to reimagine what good virtual education looks like.
As you're finding resources you like on CK12, you can add them to your library or copy and paste the unique URL and share the resource with others. If you're wanting to assign the work to students and receive feedback on how they did, you can create a CK12 class, or you can use an integrated learning management system. Yeah, CK12 works seamlessly with the classes you already created in Google Classroom, Canvas, and Schoology, and it makes it easy for you to assign work and view insights and reports without having to create duplicate classes on CK12. We'll actually put some quick reference links for these learning management systems in chat, and we encourage you to check out our video offerings that cover those integrations. Note, you can actually use Clever ClassLink to log in.
Now, throughout CK12's history, we've attempted to support teachers so that they can focus on helping students learn. With each development, we've tried to assist you with tools to save time and improve learning. With the advent of our Flexbook 2.0 platform, we've been able to go beyond our customization tools and basic reports to include our newest insights and pop-up notifications. So let's take a few minutes to talk about how this tool can empower your teaching. To begin with, our class insights and recommendations allow you to see patterns in your students' skill levels. This shows you how your students' engagement is affecting their skill level and which students need to help before moving on to the next lesson. It allows you to uncover your students' learning gaps and misconceptions, giving you personalized insights on where you can intervene effectively. And it provides actionable recommendations to help you improve your students' learning outcomes, including specific problem areas to close any learning gaps. Additionally, there are some features on our platform that kind of help with that idea of a teacher assistant. One is that our teacher assistant will update the gradebook in your learning management system, just like in a CK12 class, as students turn in their work so that you can then focus on teaching. It helps you assign auto-graded assignments to classes in Google Classroom, Schoology, and Canvas. Our report provides a heat map that shows you your class at a glance, helps you find students who need direct intervention based on incomplete practice or grades on their quizzes. And the teacher assistant allows you to get a sense of which sections of a textbook or Flexbook are where the wording of the lesson may be confusing for your students or you're teaching it slightly differently. And these recommendations may allow you to adjust your lessons so that you can create personalized Flexbooks for your class that are tailor-made to meet your students' needs. With Flexi, teachers also get notifications on student progress and insights, and the ability to nudge students who need to complete their work. You may see that in Flexi or within that report under Insights as well. Plus, Flexi is there to help you with using the CK12 platform itself. You currently can find the ability to ask Flexi a question in our science books, and that's coming for Math Flexbook 2.0 lessons. And there you can use Flexi to ask, let's say, how do I customize a Flexbook? Where can I find insights? How do I see progress? And much more.
At CK12, our mission has always been about learning and access, and our student tutor is a way to equalize education. Many students from around the world come to CK12 looking for high-quality content that they can study on their own, and that's why we created Flexi, our tutor, who can play an important role in the learning journey of any student. You can access this page from the Teacher Assistant page, the student homepage, or directly at www.ck12.org /student-tutor. Now, for many students, the first student-tutor interaction that they're going to see is going to be in one of our Flexbook 2.0 offerings, where they're going to meet Flexi. Flexi assists students with notifications, such as reminders about assignments, suggestions to refresh their skills and boost their memory with practice on older concepts, and more. Plus, currently in our science Flexbooks and coming soon for our math ones, students can ask Flexi questions such as, why isn't Pluto a planet anymore? And even beyond Q&A and notification for students, our student tutor helps with learning in a number of ways, such as providing hints and adjusting the difficulty of questions in our adaptive practice, checks for understanding and gives feedback on various practice and inline questions, and will show students reports of how they did on an assignment. Put together, the tutor helps students self-reflect and answer questions like, how am I doing? How can I improve? Or what am I missing? To help students refresh their understanding and review for a quiz or test, this fall, we also released our student review offerings for our science Flexbooks. This pulls summaries out of the toolbar and consolidates the vocabulary from across the lesson and gives students a couple of questions with matching flex cards, interactive flashcards, to help them study key ideas. We're working on rolling out these features for math as well, particularly starting with the vocabulary, which will be available very soon. And as a pro tip, if you want to see this view as a teacher, just log out and sign in as a student and check the lesson that way. Beyond the review section, that same header bar for students has two other key pieces. One, students can quickly see questions that other students are asking Flexi. Sometimes the understanding the thinking of other students can be a valuable learning experience itself. So we wanted to offer this chance to see questions that other students are asking about a concept. And we've pulled the related content out of the main toolbar also for easy access by students that might want to check out a video, an interactive, a study guide, or other resources as they review or as they learn a new topic.
Great. Now that you understand a little more about who CK12 is and what we offer, I'm going to go live to the site and show you a demo or a Flexbook 2.0 platform to show you how we can bring content to life. Before I do that, Laramie, are there any questions that we should address right now?
It looks like we have a question about how a student might, or how a teacher might find or add CK12 on Clever.
If it's a technical learning management question like that, I'm going to have our tech team answer that or have them follow up with that directly, because that's kind of a little one-off and I want to stay focused at this point in time. But if there's other questions in there, go ahead and we can kind of go from there. And then if not, we'll jump live.
Do teachers need to log in as a student in order to view the review bar?
They don't. They actually just, if they log out, then they'll be defaulted into student mode and they can see it right there. So they don't have to have a separate account to see that. They just, if they're logged in as a teacher, they'll get the core lesson. And if they log out and just browse our site without being logged in, they'll be able to see what that review looks like.
Okay, I think that's about it for the live questions right now.
Great. Let me swap over and I will jump into our platform. So here is the homepage. I'm currently logged in as a teacher. So I'm going to see kind of this core piece, our subject areas, some of our core products, kind of browsing down, you can see some different options. So there are some options if I'm looking for Flexbooks. You can start by finding Flexbooks under the direct links. So if I go down to the subjects right here or click on subjects at the top. And here are newest 2.0 Flexbooks, which are the core, newest, most interactive resources. You're going to find under Math by Level for 6th grade up through pre-calculus and some teacher resources and parent resources in the lower grades for math. And then our middle school and high school science books. That's where our 2.0 Flexbooks are available there. You can also check under our schools page. So if I go up to Explore, you can go ahead and browse schools to find, maybe see if there's any schools in the area that have customized Flexbooks specifically for your state standards. So that's a great place to go ahead and check that out as well. And under that Explore menu, you can also kind of just jump straight to our Flexbook 2.0 options by clicking on Flexbooks at the top. And this will take you, and you can see here, our math and science Flexbook 2.0 offerings. So that's definitely something to start with to kind of get you jump started into a Flexbook. I do want to go back up to that Explore menu because it's a great resource and a good overview of where CK12 is and how that works out. So you can see here our newest FlexBooks 2.0, our older FlexBooks that incorporate actually all of our FlexBooks, so both our original ones and our current 2.0 versions. Our schools page we just talked about, some of our other types of resources, adaptive practice, Sims, Plix, our study guides, our cafe, that's a great forum place, and some other resources are available. And then our little quick Flexlets, which pull in the key concepts from any of our math and science topics that are there. So definitely a great menu to get you started as you go through. But you can also use the search bar. So we talked about saying, okay, well, CK12 might not have everything. So let's say I'm looking for literature. Well, I can search for literature in all of CK12. And that will allow me to kind of see the broader community right here. You're not seeing necessarily a Flexbook. There's a Common Sense older book that has some information about literature. But if I jump into that community contributed tab, I'll see a lot of other resources that the community has created under our license and reshared out to you. And you're more than welcome to explore those and see what others have created. We continue to update and vet our content. So go ahead and make sure that they didn't say 2 + 2 is 5 before you share those resources with your student. But definitely a resource to help you browse and search for content. You can actually filter that search by our different categories or by grades as you go through. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to this idea, this homepage. Our CK12 logo is a great resource to kind of recenter you back on our homepage. And we're going to go down and let's pick physical science. So middle school physical science book gives you some introduction, some different options. You can see here that there's alignment if you're looking for how it kind of aligns to different standards. You can go ahead and expand any of these chapters to see the topics that are covered in there. We keep going down. Let's say we open a section and let's pick this section on lever. So this particular section, we can jump right in, or you can see here that this is our little icon for a simulation, a Plix interactive, and 2 different videos, as well as a real world application. So all different ways for the student to engage in this topic and understand what's happening. But let's start by jumping into this lesson by clicking on start. So this is going to load a page. You have our core topic. You can kind of see within the 2.0 platform, maybe an image to start. And a lot of our science topics start with a question. So what is a lever? Gets the students kind of questioning a piece, going through. You see some different pieces. Here we have a video, some graphs and images. The simulation's actually embedded directly within this lesson, so you can see it there. The Plix is also here. I could just launch this whole Plix and go into that. So we can actually show you what some of these things look like, or we'll check out some Plix and Sims as we work our way around as well. But definitely you'll see different levels of interactivity and different resources, depending on the resource and when it was created and what's available. But those are all different options from here. So that's kind of the main component of your lesson as you go through. In the bottom right, you can see this view practice option. So under view practice, a student would have where it says preview right there, it would just say start practice. You as a teacher have a couple other options. I can click on this and I can download a worksheet that'll pull a subset of our practice, allow us to print it out. You can pull the answers with that as well. Or I can customize this. Instead of using our practice as it's set to work, I can actually handpick the questions or have the system handpick some questions and make that work out as we go through. And you can go ahead and customize that and go. But let's go ahead and preview what this looks like. Within practice, you get a chance to answer some questions. So if I just put in something random and didn't get it right, it's going to say, maybe not. Let's see if we can get a little help from Flexi and understand what's happening. And this is exactly what would be happening for a student. So they're going to see some different options, different pieces. Let's try that again. It says a class of lever that is a fulcrum at one end and the input force close to the fulcrum is a blank class lever. So let's see if we have second, one of our better choices. Nope, still got it wrong. That's it. I get 2 shots at that thing. I'm moving forward. Example of first class levers include, let's see how we're doing there. We get some right, some wrong. And as I'm doing better and worse on this particular piece, it's going to adjust my questions as we go through. So up in this top right, once I have answered 3 questions, it's going to start giving me a skill level. Because I've been getting some of them wrong, it's back in that beginning level. As I get more and more challenging questions right and work my way, it will work my way up to mastery. And I can stop at any point in time. And a student is going to see their report directly in that pop-up window for practice. Because you have a couple of other actions that you can do as a teacher, we're just going to click on this view report button to get there. And now we can see the report that's going to go with practice. So I only have 4 right so far out of a goal of getting 10 correct. So our practice is set with that as an achievable goal for students. It's going to adjust. So this is a demo topic. So we've only gotten 4 out of 18 questions right, mainly by putting a lot of this random gobbledygook in here. And you can see we checked out some hints or recommendations, went our way through. We're definitely still in beginning, not understanding this topic. It keeps bumping me from easy to medium and back to easy as we get them wrong. And I can kind of see what's happening. 19 minutes spent, only 4 correct. Definitely should go in and actually read this lesson before I do the practice. And as a teacher, that's probably the first thing I would recommend when I look at that engagement level as well. So you can see kind of both the actual answers that they did and what they're doing. But for practice, keep in mind that this is a completion score. The kid put in the time and effort and got 10 correct when they hit 100, but their mastery and skill level might not be up at that mastery level. It might be closer to beginning. So they get credit for completing their homework, but you're still going to need to work with them to get an understanding of that particular topic. So if I go ahead and I close out of that practice, I can see kind of the other side of this, and this is a science lesson. So Flexi has a couple of options on the bottom left here. You're going to see the opportunity to ask Flexi a question. So let's say, is the ISS a satellite? This just came up in a crossword puzzle I was doing the other day, and it's talking about different satellites, and it's going to give some answers that are related to this. I can actually see more information about this as we go down here. And that's a question that a student's actually asked recently to Flexi. So we have some great questions that students are asking as they're trying to figure out what's happening. And it's going to map that question to resources we have in our science content and try to give them the closest answer we can to help them with that particular piece. As I mentioned, we recently allowed you to also ask questions like, how do I customize this Flexbook? And in here, it's going to pull up maybe a video, a quick answer at the top, some resources that gave you a help desk. So go ahead and use that Q&A option for Flexi, both encourage your students to ask questions for topic and content knowledge, and you are more than welcome to use it to help you understand how things work within our platform. The other piece of Flexi that's available across our 2.0 lessons is your tasks. So right now there's a little note about this webinar that we're in today. But other tasks that might show up are that students have turned in work. So maybe you have new insights. For students, they'll get little nudges if they didn't complete an assignment and you send a little nudge to them to say, hey, go ahead and make sure you turn that in. They'll see something pop up and say your teacher nudged you and reminded you to do this. So go ahead and keep an eye out on those tasks in different pieces as you see Flexi there. Another really cool thing that's available if you're using our core platform is at the bottom here, you'll see the option to change the language. So you can go ahead and pick a different language, translate this content. This is going to translate all the core content using Google Translate. Now, Google Translate is not perfect. It is more useful and more accurate for languages that are more commonly used, but it will give a sense of how this language works. And you can actually update this content and use that as a reference, and then go ahead back and swap it back to English if you're like me and don't speak fluent Spanish and could actually understand this better as it's going through. The practice that's attached to this is in English, so make sure that your students are using that as a reference and they're still learning the vocabulary that they need to complete that practice. Unless they're using one of our actual Spanish books. We do have some Flexbooks that are in Spanish, and the practice that's attached to that is going to be available in Spanish as well. So go ahead and check that out. We talked about Sims and Plix. We have, let's just open the ones that are in here. You can get a sense of how they work. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this. It's going to launch this simulation. It starts with a question. So can Sarah lift her mother on a seesaw? It's going to work its way through this particular situation, kind of give you some options as you see through here, or I can advance into what we call our sandbox environment. For younger classes, you might even have them kind of hide these graphs so you don't have to worry about those pieces. And then you can adjust and say, mother's weight is here, but can I make Sarah far enough away that she can still outweigh her mother as you work your way through? So students can go ahead and play around with this. This is a great example of something that can be used at all levels of science, not just high school, not just middle school, but go ahead and use that as an example. And then how you assign that or how you use that letting students work with it on their own or doing it as a class activity might vary based on your age. For some of our physics ones, you'll see these little questions that students can kind of map out on that actual sandbox environment and try to answer. And then all of our simulations end with some related content. We really try to address the idea of scientific phenomena and where else something is applied, that idea of transference and understanding, and getting a chance to expand their idea on what a particular tool, in this case, as we're working with, how does a nutcracker work? Why do you bend your knee to kick a ball? All these different questions that help out here. You'll also see at the top this opportunity to check out a worksheet. So if students really benefit from writing down pieces, you can go ahead and download this worksheet and have them fill out different pieces, check out the different parts, fill out the graphs, and answer some questions. I'm going to go ahead and close that worksheet, close down this, drop back into my Flexbook, and let's open this Plix that's here. So same deal. Some of our interactives are directly within a lesson, and some launch a full simulation or a full Plix outside of the lesson. And here I can open this up. All of our Plix have a description of what's happening, a chance to adjust or play around with something on an interactive component. And then the Plix have challenge questions. These challenge questions, if I get one incorrect, it's going to show me the correct answer. It's a learning opportunity for students. So if you assign this, you're just going to get full or no credit for a student. You're not going to actually get kind of how they're doing because they really get a chance to see what's happening and try. And as you advance, I'm just going to kind of keep clicking through this so you can see the last question. It's an open discussion question. We have a lot of teachers that will kind of start class and allow this to be a place to discuss and work off of. So some of our Plix little quick interactives are that more advanced formalized kind of system simulation, or for chemistry, maybe looking at something at the molecular level. Another piece that you'll see within a Flexbook 2.0 is that you can highlight. So I might make a note that a lever is, this is a simple machine. And maybe you have vocabulary as one color and key ideas are another. All of these notes and highlights that you make are found in your toolbar. A student can do the same thing, and they can click on the toolbar at the top right here and see their notes and highlights by clicking right there. It's a great opportunity for active learning for students, and they can kind of go back in and refresh based on that particular piece. Here, another couple of things that you're going to want to see under this toolbar are insights. So insights are opportunities for how students reacted to that particular piece. Now, I haven't assigned this lesson to a particular class. So if you want to check this out, just click on the Try Demo class and you can get a sense of what we offer for these insights. Beyond the report I showed you for practice, if I click Assign and I assign this to my students, regardless of using CK12 or a learning management system, I'm going to get this skill level to engagement for any 2.0 lesson that has practice attached. Here you can see that Christine has a beginning skill level, but only spent 9 seconds on this lesson. David, on the other hand, is still struggling, but spent 6 minutes reading through this lesson, and it has a high engagement. I can actually see more details on that. I can go ahead in and see where they spent this time. And this is a demo class, so the time may not match cleanly with this, but you could tell if they actually spent time on an interactive, watched a video, however that played out. Let's jump back to the whole class for a second. And below this kind of mapping of skill level to engagement, I'm going to see how students are doing. So 3 students who turned in this assignment, we get some names here. We can kind of have it turned in. I might click this little nudge to encourage these students to turn that in. I'm going to go ahead and click, let's get that turned in. Here are some questions that students were struggling with. Now, this is a demo class, so it's not matching topic by topic, but I could start the class by going through these questions. That might be a great place instead of trying to figure out which questions everyone did, which ones they got right, which ones they were struggling with. We're going to pull those up for you and surface them as a great place to start. And some other recommendations, such as a prerequisite concept that they might want to check out if they're struggling with kind of a core topic. So definitely check out those insights. Those are going to be available for you for any 2.0 lesson that you assigned. A few other pieces to note within this toolbar is for science, you'll see a little quick summary. You can access this in the toolbar. Students will also see this in their quick review as it gets pulled out, makes it easy for them to kind of find as a review option. Below that, the notes and highlights we talked about. If there's an extra resource, if you're customizing something and you have a great opportunity, a worksheet that you've made that you own that you can share on our platform, You can upload that and have that available for students right there. I can assign this to a class. It's really that simple to assign. If I'm assigning to CK12 or Google Classroom, I just go ahead and click assign and pick CK12 or Google, and I'm good to go. For Canvas and Schoology, that works from within those platforms, and we have plenty of opportunities for you to learn about those as well. Few more things on the toolbar, just to give you a sense. At the bottom, you're going to see concept details, image attributions, and display settings. These will expand the text, change the background color, change the spacing of text. That might be useful for students if they're struggling with reading. They're younger students, they need more space to work with. So go ahead and play around with that piece as you go through there. So we've seen our toolbar, we've seen our core lesson, our adaptive practice, our Flexi and how that's working out. I'm going to go ahead and jump back to this physical science for middle school lesson. And actually, before I do that, let's just show you what it looks like if I'm logged out, so you get a sense to see a slightly different version of that as a student. And here you can see the same lesson, core lesson, looks identical. This is still available. You can still go through here as we go through. I'm logged out, so it's not necessarily going to show me that practice right off the bat, but I am going to be able to see this review option, that overview summary, the hover over vocabulary, some questions to try things out, questions that students have asked on Flexi, and that related content. So this is the same related content. I can find it here. I can find it in my toolbar under related content right here. It's going to show you all of those different resources, still all available to you, but we just pulled it out to make it easily accessible for students that maybe they've already learned this topic and now it's time for midterms and finals and they want to go back and review, and that might be a great option. I'm going to sign back in again because I have this link to a Google account. Really, really simple. It's going to go ahead and kick me back in and I'm all set. And I can either follow this breadcrumb back to the physical science book or open my table of contents on the left and jump straight back to that piece. And at the whole book level, I have a few other options. So from here, I can click on choose and assign this. This means I can assign multiple sections from the same chapter to a class. I can customize this and start adding in new sections, rearranging sections, all sorts of options, add it to another Flexbook that I'm already customizing, or share it to my class. In this case, I've already added it to my library, but that's an opportunity to bookmark something, especially if you're using Google Classroom, especially if you're using Canvas or Schoology, because that allows you easy access if it's in your library and you want to kind of jump straight to a resource from within there for assignments. So super fast overview, but really kind of diving into the resources and what's available within any particular lesson. Math book's a little different levels, different grades look a little bit different. We have some great new biology interactives that have come out, so definitely check out those in our biology book. But that gives you a sense of the different types of resources, as well as one particular lesson. So Laramie, how are we doing on questions?
We have a few here. It looks like many of them are kind of questions about how lessons appear to students as opposed to how they appear to teachers. There was one a little bit ago just verifying that students themselves can actually change the language of a lesson. They don't have to wait for a teacher to do that. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that's going to be the difference that you're going to see right there is for students to see that review instead of kind of just the lesson. Other than that, kind of when they pop up that practice, when I dropped into practice, that's exactly the same view that a student is going to have. The nudge is going to come from Flexi. So they're just going to see in their tasks right down at the bottom here. So let's drop back into this lesson. And on the bottom left, I'm going to close this table of contents. I can kind of click on Flexi, and under this notifications, under my tasks, they'll see this piece, and Flexi will actually start chatting at them. And where it says mute me, there's like a little pop-up that will happen. If there's a new nudge, they can kind of see that as they go through. So that's going to show up there. The only other thing that students will see is that under a table of contents, and this is kind of when they're working and logged in, they're going to see maybe some breakpoints with extra practice unit challenges. But most of what you see is exactly what a student sees. If they can change that language, that is a frame. So if they're working inside a learning management system that frames it differently, then they may not have immediate access to that, but they can always open up that book in another kind of on their phone or something like that to do that. Just make sure that if they have an assignment that they cleanly access it from within that learning management system so that all of the things work from there. It also looks like we have a question about them stopping. Just like I click stop for now, it saved my progress. It's going to save their progress. Students can keep working on adaptive practice until their assignment is due, at which point in time they want to make sure that they've turned that in. They can keep practicing even beyond that, but it's going to freeze their score at that kind of due date that you've set if you are using Google Classroom or CK12 classes.
Cool. And it looks like the last question we have is, what is the difference between assign and share to class?
Sure, that's actually a good question and kind of brings up something that I didn't mention that I did want to make sure to mention. So thanks for that. I am assigning this. So it looks like it's loading that piece. So let's go ahead and click Tutor back to this main piece. If I am assigning this to my class, I'm actually requesting CK12 to auto grade this for me. So if there's practice or I assign a quiz that I've customized to my students, it's going to take that report that you saw and it's going to send it back to me. So I'm going to be able to find it in my CK12 class or matching learning management system. So that is the key piece. Practice and quizzes, it's going to give you all of that detailed information you just saw for practice. For a sim, it's not really a specific set of grades or on questions, but more just that they accessed and started playing around with that. Plex, they have to start answering questions before they kind of can turn that in. So that's the biggest thing, is that you are getting CK12 to send a grade for you. If I want to share something to a class, on here, this is if I'm using CK12 classes, and it's going to kind of bookmark this particular Flexbook for them within their CK12 class as a resource for them. But I can do that in any learning management system, the email, whatever I want to do, by simply copying the URL at the top of the page. That's going to be unique for every book, every lesson, every simulation that's kind of a standalone sim or Plex. All of those have unique URLs. So if you want to share that to something that's not a CK12 class, go ahead and copy that URL. Share that with your parents, kind of different resources as you go through. We'll talk a little bit more about that in strategies, but definitely an opportunity to work as you go through. So I think with that, let's go ahead and jump back into our presentation and talk some more about the strategies. I've started to mention pieces of them, but we definitely want to make sure that we cover some of those before we wrap up today.
Great, thanks for the intro, Katie. So I'm going to recommend that you start by using a Flexbook 2 as your primary mode of instruction. This will allow your students to shift from in-class learning or online classes to homework and back again without issue. We've integrated the best of all of our CK12 modalities into these 2.0 lessons and curated the ones that are most directly applicable. And you can get meaningful insights on how students engaged with the lesson and performed on the adaptive practice that's associated with each lesson. So consider starting with, or if you're doing something else, pivoting to, an interactive digital book, whether one that you find from CK12 or from the community. And you can take it as it is, or you can take the time to customize the scope and sequence of your book and locate the content specifically for your students. Flexbooks can be updated at any time throughout the year if you want to make modifications and changes.
Now, one of the best ways to check student progress is by assigning adaptive practice. So that's the difference, once again, between assigning and sharing. And you can do that either through a Flexbook 2.0 lesson that has that practice attached, or individually from the practice browser at ck12.org/practice using that Explore menu, or even kind of in one of our older lessons, the bright orange practice at the top. That lets our adaptive practice system do the heavy lifting for you. It offers students recommendations in the moment, like you saw there, on something they might want to check out or a hint. And then if you wanted to create your own questions and assignments, you can set up what we call a quiz on CK12 and assign that to your students, where it has a fixed set of questions and all the students get the same ones.
Another useful tool is our Annotation Toolbar. CK12's annotation tools help students stay engaged as they interact with learning content. Any highlights or notes, as Katie showed us a little bit ago, that students take will appear in their individual accounts under the toolbar, and they can revisit their notes and annotations at any time to help them self-study, prepare for tests, and so forth.
Now, if you have assigned a Flexbook 2.0 lesson through a CK12 class, Google Classroom, Schoology, or Canvas, you have access to the insights that I showed you. These are powerful features in our toolbar that let you see the time the student spent on a lesson, the histogram of where they spent that time, the skill level they received on the attached adaptive practice, and an engagement score. This gives you an indicator of how much each student interacted with the lesson, such as through watching videos, using interactives, and engaging with highlighting and annotations. Plus, those insights and recommendations that I just showed you in that demo class are going to give you suggestions, such as a prerequisite concept that some students might need to review, a few questions many students got incorrect that you can use to start a class discussion, and much more.
CK12 offers class level and individual reports, which makes it easy for both the teacher and the student to monitor progress. Teachers can use the heat map on the class reports page to see at a glance which of their students are completing their work or performing well on quizzes and which ones are struggling. When clicking on an individual student, teachers see the same report the student received when they completed the practice, including details like the time spent, number of easy, medium, or hard questions they answered correctly, their skill level, and even a record of the exact answer the student selected or typed in.
Now, our interactives, both our simulations and our Plex, as well as our newest embedded interactives within lessons, are great for online and in-person instruction to preview, reinforce, or review concepts. Many teachers choose to begin their class with a Plex as a bell ringer activity. Students can work individually or in partners to answer the challenge questions, and then you can start with a big class discussion. Our simulations open with a broad question relating to a real-world situation. If you're in person with your students, consider starting class with a simulation projected on the board, or even if you're sharing a screen for online learning, and discuss student ideas before proceeding with the activity. Students engaging with a simulation at home, whether for homework or in different situations, have access to those challenge questions and extension activities, and even tutorials for some of our physics simulations that reinforce their learning and support students who are struggling.
Now, on our concept pages that you might find through search or on the start page when you're opening any Flexbook 2.0 lesson from the table of contents, you'll find curated modalities that allow students to learn their own way. Give students the choice of how they want to learn a concept on their own. These curated modalities include videos, real-world applications, interactives, study guides, and more. Grab the URL to a concept page and share it with your students, or assign individual modalities if you want to report.
And online learning doesn't mean isolated learning. Students can collaborate with other users from around the world in the CK12 Cafe. This is a discussion forum for answering questions and sharing thoughts on math and science concepts, or even some of those Plex discussion questions. We encourage your students to take part in the conversation.
And remember that all of CK12's resources have unique URLs that you can use to share with your students and with their families. In your outgoing communication, make sure to link to the individual Flexbook sections and even include instructions for how parents and guardians can use the Google Translate feature to instantly change the content into their home language.
Now, while using our Flexbooks online will always provide the best experience for students so that they can access the interactives, videos, and adaptive content, users can still download a PDF of a custom book and make that available for your students if they need that offline access. You can also download adaptive practice, which will pull a subset of the practice for any concept, or any quiz that you've made if you need offline access for those. So it looks like our Q&A is currently clear. Our team can kind of go through that. We're going to wrap up. I'm going to have Laramie go through some of these final resources and make those available for you as a quick reference. But go ahead and toss any more questions in there and we'll circle back and answer them as we wrap up.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. Today's webinar was a really quick tour of what CK12 has to offer. If you're wanting to learn more about our platform and our resources, or you would like an easy page to share with your colleagues, you can go to ck12.org/overview. There's also a brochure there available for you to download. The Testimonials page, found in the footer under the Explore menu, or at www.ck12.org/testimonials, is another place to hear from students and educators about CK12 products and how they're being used in the classroom. Having traveled around the country and over the years, we've heard a variety of stories, lots of reasons to use CK12, and lots of strategies for implementation that others have shared with us. Feel free to browse or filter based on the role or topic you're most interested in. If you need additional assistance as you're exploring CK12, visit ck12.org/help or click on Help in our footer for quick articles and tips for using CK12. And check out our webinars page at www.ck12.org/webinars to see archived recordings of this and other webinars that we've done. Feel free to share those with colleagues who couldn't make it today. And keep an eye out for upcoming webinars as we add more to our schedule. Also, if you've never visited CK12's YouTube channel, you'll find a wide range of videos from content tutorials to testimonials to previous webinars. I'd like to call special attention to the quick overviews playlist that's been recently updated. These are bite-sized videos, only a couple of minutes in length, that quickly get you to the help that you need on specific CK12 tasks. You can also easily access this playlist at the bottom of our webinars page. In addition to covering CK12 classes, these quick videos also include how to use CK12 with our 3 integrated learning management systems. As mentioned earlier, we've built landing pages for those integrations, complete with the matching videos, help desk article links, and more. You can access them via our tools and apps page, which can be found in our footer, or directly at the matching URLs, ck12.org/gclassroom/canvas and /schoology. In 2020, we converted our Certified Educator program to an on-demand, self-paced course. If you are intrigued by what you saw today and you want to dive deeper into all of CK12's tools and resources, consider joining our community of educators who are becoming certified at no cost and on their own schedule. Go to ck12.org/certified and click Join to register for the program and be placed in a class. And please don't forget to let your social networks know about CK12. You can like our Facebook page and share content with your friends from @CK12 Foundation. We're also on Twitter @CK12 Foundation. Social media is a great way to find and share resources and strategies for addressing learning, both in person and online. Katie and I would both like to thank you for all joining us, and we'll stay on for a little while here in case you have additional questions, but please always feel free to reach out to us at support.ck12.org.
Thanks, Laramie. I know Star added a bunch of those links in our chat window, so go ahead and copy those out. Most of those are actually available either in our footer or our explore menu. And those quick overview videos are the ones that I mentioned that are showing up when you ask Flexi a question. So plenty of ways to get resources and support, but go ahead and check those out. And it looks like we don't have any open questions. Oh, there we go. For Canvas integration, we have some options. We do recommend for your learning management system integration that you do that at the admin level, if at all possible. So if you are using a teacher account that just is the canvas.instructure generic login, then you can go ahead and register for that with as a teacher. If you have a school specific URL for Canvas or Schoology, that needs to be integrated at the system level so that everyone can use it with one clean key, because if a student is using it with multiple teachers, you want to make sure that's all working cleanly. So we do recommend that is, and that's kind of how it works. Go ahead and have whoever is running that integration, go ahead and do that for you if you're using a paid version. If you don't like a video, if you don't like something that's in your Flexbook, that's the best reason to customize it. Go ahead and change that intro question, that intro discussion. I always started out different pieces. There's actually a great water fountain simulation in our system that is on projectile motion. I used to teach that for my math class. That's the first thing I would pull into my math book, even though it's a physics simulation, to kind of update and make that more interesting and engaging. So go ahead and check out, just click customize, start playing with our editor, check it out, adjust pieces and go in all the way down the kind of line. We'll probably do a customizing webinar in 2022. So keep an eye out for that, or just check out on our webinars page for the ones that teach you how to customize. But by all means, pull stuff in. Just make sure anything that you're pulling into our platform fits our terms of use, and you're not pulling in material that's copyrighted in a way that doesn't work with our terms. So I think we have cleared our questions. If you have any future questions, please go ahead and reach out to us at support or use one of those resources to get them answered. We're more than happy to help you at any point in time. And with that, I wish you a wonderful evening.